morning, folks. Welcome to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Shroyer, your host, and it's cold outside, but we're in a greenhouse on the K-State campus, and it's corn planting time, or at least it will be in a month or so, and we're in luck because we have Dr. Ignacio Ciampitti with us, our corn specialist, and he's going to be talking to us about things that producers should be thinking about prior to planting time. So, folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after these words.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm, folks. I'm Jim Shroyer, your host, and we're in luck today because we're inside for one reason, but the other is that we have Dr. Ignacio Ciampitti with us, and he is our crop extension specialist. And some of the predecessors you may remember, folks, would be Dale Fiel and Craig Rosenbaum were his predecessors. And Ignacio's been here for a couple years now, and he is working hard on corn, grain sorghum, and soybeans. But today we're going to talk about corn. So, Ignacio, tell me some of the things that farmers need to be thinking about prior to planting, because we're getting close to planting time, but it's still cold outside. But enlighten us a little bit on what you see farmers should be thinking about.
Well, Jim, thanks for inviting me here. I think one of the main points that the farmers are looking right now is the planting dates, and we have some information about planting time in corn. One of the main things that we probably need to be looking is into the soil temperatures.
Right.
And I was seeing farmers trying to get corn right now as early as possible. And it depends on what section of the state you are. If you are in Northeast, we are seeing guys that are trying to get corn first week of April.
It could be good, but the soil temperatures historically are not the right temperature at that point.
Yeah, and if you take a look to the previous year and the projection for this year, they are looking to a very cold spring.
Okay.
So we need to be very careful. Trying to get something planting first week of April. And what I'm always trying to emphasize to farmers is uniformity in corn is one of the main issues.
Exactly.
Anytime that a plant is left behind, we are seeing impacts in yield, even from the beginning.
Right.
Okay. So if you are planting too early in the season, first week of April, that plant will emerge at the end of the month.
Right.
Okay. But if you are planting maybe second week or third week of April, it will take less time.
Exactly.
So the temperature is one of the main factors that we need to be.
So when you have a constant temperature through the field, all the corn emerges at the same time, and that's very important.
Exactly right. We want to make sure that all the corn is emerging within 5 days or within a week. We don't want to see plants that they are coming 2 or 3 weeks after.
Right.
Because that is really impacting yields, and there are plants that they will be being overshadowed by the second plants, and there will be a competition there. So we don't want to see that.
Okay. Yeah, I know that there are a few farmers in the county that will always get out their planter and drive around the section line and get all their neighbors all upset.
And they do that just to upset the neighbors. Most of the times.
I think so. So let's talk a little bit more about the temperatures that minimum germination, and then what's more optimal.
Well, usually we say that corn can emerge 50 degrees. When you are looking at 50 degrees at a 4-inch soil depth, is a good temperature. My recommendation coming from corn specialists is always trying to get the corn more 55, 60, okay?
Right.
Because we want to make sure that the corn, again, is coming everything at the same time. So what will be the challenge if you go with 50 degrees is that corn probably will sit there in the soil for 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And we don't want to see that.
Okay.
So in that case, seed protection. Our seed treatments will not probably last for 2 or 3 weeks.
Right, because if you're in the low temperatures, now you have more problems with diseases damping off and those seedling diseases like that.
Any fungal disease that you have in the soil will be affecting that seed. And the seed treatments will just probably last for a couple of weeks.
Right.
We cannot expect any seed treatment to last more than 2 or 3 weeks.
Right. Okay. Let's hold that thought. We've got to take a break here. So folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand, and I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action, this time for all time.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Shroyer, your host, and with us we have Dr. Ignacio Ciampitti, our crops extension specialist, and we're in a greenhouse on the campus of K-State, and because it's too cold outside right now, but corn planting is upon us before too long, and we talked a little bit about soil temperatures. Ignacio, let's talk a little bit more about planting date and it's associated with that, and then let's move into seeding rates.
Well, one of the points that I've always liked to emphasize to farmers about planting days is trying to see, and more in the situations that we are thinking about central Kansas, when we are thinking always about planting corn or sorghum. I mean, those environments that we know that they are very fragile. Trying to see if we can match, planting time with a really good flowering, okay?
Exactly.
And corn, we can do that because corn responds to temperature. Right. So if we know, planting time, we can match, and know exactly what will be the flowering time. So right. In most of the situations, sometimes, it doesn't make any sense to plant early as possible because we may expose the crop to a really bad conditions at flowering.
Right, right, okay.
So in some situations we are seeing information delaying even planting time for 2 or 3 weeks, going inside of probably late April, first week of May, is giving some benefits.
Okay, so let's talk about seeding rates a little bit. Those can be all over the board. I know producers out there on the Colorado border, they're planting 10,000 plants and doing great.
Yep. And what is very beauty about the state, is like you can see how amazing it is. Seeding rates can go from a northeast very high, western very high, because we are basically, most of the seeding rates are very tied to the yield potential.
Right.
So in environments that we are looking to 250 bushels, very likely.
We're pushing seeding rates.
We are pushing seeding rates, and we are looking at the farmers are working in 32, 34,000. We are talking about plants per acre, okay?
Now you're talking dropped or final stand?
Final stand.
Okay.
So if you're looking to drop, I'm always asking to the farmers, think about 10 to 15% extra.
Exactly.
Okay? So every time that we are talking 32, let's just add 10, 50% extra so we can talk about seeds per acre.
Okay.
When you're looking at different environments like a central Kansas, yield potential might be more close to 150 bushels or less. So in those environments, we are always recommending, dropping less. We are probably talking about maybe 26,000 seeds per acre.
Dropping. And hoping 22, 24
exactly.
final stand.
Exactly. That's what we are seeing. Working with farmers last year, we are seeing that 22, 24 seems to be a very good number of plants in those scenarios. Again, good point that you mentioned at the beginning, when you go western Kansas. In that situation in dryland, we are seeing guys that they are just dropping 8,000, 12,000 plants. We are looking low populations. And the goal of the low populations is trying to see if you can produce some yield, close to 80 or 90 or 100 bushels, but really low population with not really much stress.
Right. And when you look at irrigation, that's going to depend on not only if you're in northwest or southwest, but also capacity of the well.
Exactly right, yeah. And some of the strategies, farmers are implementing today, they are trying to keep maximum capacity wells for, irrigating corn.
Right.
And then they do half of the people with corn and the other half with sorghum. Okay. In that way, they have a chance to irrigate sorghum maybe twice in the season, pre-planting at put stage, and then trying to maximize corn irrigation. In those environments, when they do that, they can push for really high populations. They can push for 36,000.
Okay. Well, let's stop right there and we'll take a break. And folks, now's the time to go get a cup of coffee and be right back.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome. Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484. That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back, folks, to That's My Farm. I hope you got a hot cup of coffee there and sitting back down with us. We have Dr. Ignacio Ciampitti, our crops extension specialist. And Ignacio, we were talking just before the break there about irrigation and plant populations, and I immediately started thinking water, or the lack thereof. So, you know, all the hubbub as of the last year or two has been the drought-tolerant trait in some of the hybrids that are available. So talk to us a little bit about that trait and, you know, how do they do it, and if it's worth it.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's an excellent point. We have, in the last 3 or 4 years, we have research information that we are producing around the state, just specifically focused on the drought-tolerant trait.
You've got a lot of research plots out on that.
We have, every year we have at least, 5 or 6 locations that we are summarizing. We are working right now on putting a nice publication, extension publication on this. First things that we need to realize, we have kind of 2 different types of drought-tolerant hybrids. Okay. We have ones that I call the conventional drought-tolerant hybrids, okay? And the other ones that we call the transgenics.
Okay. The conventional will be more avoidance, or what do you mean?
The conventional is the people that improving the crop, they just are selecting without modifying anything in the crop.
Oh, okay.
They are selecting,
just tougher from selection process.
From selection process, they are just selecting corn that can yield more with less water.
Okay.
Just simple as that.
Okay.
And we have 2 or 3 companies that they have that product,
okay,
and they market that product. We have another company that has transgenic, so that means that it is a modification in the genome.
Okay.
So there is one gene that is being modified,
okay,
and that is also producing the same effect, increasing yield with less water. Okay?
Okay.
So that's the main point of these 2 strategies. When we are looking at the field and we have these different hybrids in the field, we are seeing some benefits, okay? And the mechanism, I mean, how is the way that these hybrids react under drought is just they avoid the stress. Okay. So, and the way that they can avoid the stress is they have produced more yield with less transpiration.
Oh, okay. Transpiring less.
Transpiring less.
Because we know that of the water that a plant takes up, 99% of it goes out the leaves.
Exactly right.
Okay.
I mean, that's a good
transpiration.
point. Yeah, they can hold, I mean, when they are sensing a stress, they can hold immediately, and then as soon as the stress is released, I mean, they can just keep moving.
Okay.
So they have a strategy that is more avoiding the stress. So there is a stress avoidance.
Okay.
That's a main point. When you're looking at the information that we collected in the last 5 years, we put a very nice set of information, and we are looking that in some situations, I mean, under very low yield environments, less than 100 bushels, we are seeing benefits on using the technology. Okay. And we are seeing benefits that can go from 5 bushels until sometimes 20 bushels. Okay. It's very diverse.
So we're talking about in that 100 bushel range.
In the less than 100 bushel range, we are seeing benefits. Okay. And this is like I'm explaining to farmers, it's like paying an extra insurance policy.
Okay.
So you are paying some extra money on these new hybrids in order to see if you can get some extra yield. Okay. When you are moving to the 100 and 150 bushels, I mean, the advantage tends to be fair or neutral. So we are not seeing such a big benefits. Okay. And then more than 150 bushels, I mean, the benefits, I mean, are probably not really quite clear. Okay. One of the good points that we need to emphasize still in a really high yielding situations. When guys are working on the irrigation or in really good environments, 200, 250 bushels, these hybrids perform really well.
Okay.
But the question is, are you willing to pay more?
Right. Okay.
What I'm always recommending to my farmers is like, take a look to your historical yields.
Right.
Just take a look to the last 5-10 years and see, I mean, you are in 150 or maybe around 150, so that will give you a good feeling of saying, should I invest in the technology, yes or no?
Okay. We've got to take a break right here. Folks, come back. We'll be right back after these words.
It's time, the Great Bend Farm and Ranch Expo, April 8th, 9th, and 10th in Great Bend, Kansas. See Scott Daly Horse Training all 3 days, sponsored by Beck Sunglasses. Gen X Shoot Side Demo, Friday the 10th at 1. Cutting Edge Technology for Farming Forums all 3 days, sponsored by American State Bank. Free admission, free parking. That's the Great Bend Farm and Ranch Expo, April 8th, 9th, and 10th. Go to Star Expos for more details. Corporate sponsors American Hat Company, Great Bend Co-op, and KSN.
Frank Lyons, a physician here at Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. As one of the only standalone stem cell centers in the U.S., we use your stem cells as therapy for arthritis and some autoimmune diseases.
I'm Dr. Andrew Pope. Here at Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center, utilizing the latest technology under strict protocols, we're able to harvest your stem cells from your own fat to treat a variety of medical conditions. The best part about it is, it's a same-day surgical procedure and requires no general anesthesia.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. We're in Manhattan, Kansas in the greenhouse because it's too darn cold outside, and we have Ignacio Ciampitti with us. And Ignacio, we just talked about the drought-tolerant traits in the various hybrids and companies. Let's talk a little bit more about timing of droughts. I mean, what we want to try to avoid.
And it's a good point that you bring, Jim, about timing. Most of the times we need to be thinking about timing as one of the main factors. I mean, we can have drought early in the season or very late, and the impact in yields might be only like 5 or 10%, very minimum. What happens if you have some, like saying 4 days, and we have some research studies that they show 4 days when the crop is all with the leaf rolling. Okay? That means that the crop is not really fixing any carbon, it's not moving there, okay?
Right. It's shutting down.
It's shutting down. So if you have those short 4 days around pollination, you can lose 40-50% of the yields.
How much?
40 to 50%.
40 to 50%.
And why is that? And I'm saying 1 week before flowering, what happened there? You are producing the floret, fertile.
Right.
So you are producing the florets that they will be producing the grains.
Right.
So what happened at pollination? You are just making those grains. And after pollination, 1 week after, what happened with that? I mean, we are just
putting photosynthates into that kernel.
and we are trying to fix the kernels and making sure that we have that number of grain. So that week of 2 weeks, 1 week before, 1 week after, and at pollination time are critical. So any heat, any drought impacting that moment is critical. And the heat might be impacting pollen. So if we have heat more than 105 degrees as a mean temperature, the pollen is just viable only for less than an hour. Okay? Water is impacting different things, and water might be impacting the silks. When all the silks are coming out, if they don't have water, they will be desiccating right away. Okay?
They'll dry
They
up.
will dry up, and they will be lasting just for a few minutes.
Okay.
So this problem of pollination and then before and after is really impacting the crop.
Okay. Well, I know years ago we talked about nicking. Well, we still talk about nicking, the time of silk emergence to pollen shed. But I've noticed lately that some of the hybrids anymore, sometimes you'll see silks come out even before the pollen is shed. So that's a good thing. But we still can have some nicking problems with pollen shed and silk emergence.
I mean, the best time when we talk with farmers is saying, I mean, the best is to synchronize those two.
Right.
I don't want to see any silk coming before too early. I don't want to see any pollen coming too late.
Right.
I want to make sure that I have two things. I mean, and heat and drought are impacting that process. That's why we are seeing that if you have those stress, you can reduce yields in 50%.
Okay. Now we also talked about heat and drought stress during that 2 weeks. What about hail damage during that time frame?
It's very, very similar. What happened with the hail, if we have more than 50% of the leaf area that is being affected, immediately what happens is an imbalance.
Oh, right.
So whatever is coming from the leaf that needs to go to the grain is not coming. So everything that is affecting leaf is affecting grain. and then defoliation at that specific point will create some imbalance, and then yield reductions that can be really, from 20 to 30%.
Right. And, well, if you lose 100% at that point of leaf loss at that point,
you're done.
Yeah.
Probably
Call
you
the
should
banker. Call the banker.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly. Well, folks, we've got to take a break here and stay with us. We got one more section. You folks at home, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Tarwater Farm and Home is a nearly 40-year-old local family-owned business. Clothing for work and play, seeds and feeds, boots, toys for the kids, the tools you need for around the home and farm, and a service department to keep them in top running order. It's a big store, so when you have some time, take some time to see what they have for your farm and home. Tarwater's everyday pricing is like others' sale prices. When you need it, they've got it. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Shroyer. Ignacio Ciampitti is with us. And Ignacio, in this last section here, let's talk a little bit about crop rotations. That's obviously important. And then some work you've been doing on row spacing.
Okay. Well, one of the things about crop rotations that I'm always trying to emphasize to our farmers, a corn soybean system is more sustainable. And it's more sustainable in the sense that we are seeing much better weed control, we are seeing much better seedbed preparation, we are seeing better plant uniformity. And why is that? Well, in a continuous corn system, we are seeing the residue that's staying in the soil is really affecting microenvironment. So we have some plants that are coming late, and we have some plants that are not succeeding coming. So we are seeing issues on that effect. And then when you're looking at the combination of rotation with tillage, so what happened there? Most of our studies are showing that in no-till, on continuous corn, you have a yield penalty, which is, the amount of residue that you are keeping.
This builds up year after year after year.
Year after year, and you have the
being able to penetrate the planter.
Exactly, and the composition is not really in a high rate in some winters. So we are seeing that problem. So in no-till with corn soybean systems, we are not seeing that issue.
Right.
Because when you are getting into the corn, most of the soybean residue is not there. Okay? So rotation and tillage, we need to pay some attention. If you are doing continuous corn, no-till seems to be, not a really good option, for really treating that residue.
Maybe tillage every now and then. Not too much.
We call it occasional tillage.
Occasional
tillage.
So as opposed to recreational. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about row spacing stuff that you've got.
We are doing some row spacing studies just because farmers approaching us, they are asking what happened with 15 inches versus 30 inches. Okay. It's very interesting. We have some studies that we did 10 years ago. Dr. Scott Stagenborg was one of the main persons that was doing those studies. He see very clear separation and yield benefits of row spacing, narrowing rows, only on situations that the corn yields are above 200 bushels.
Okay. So above 200, narrowing it down to 15.
Exactly. But what happens if you are below? We are not seeing any effects. Not really yields separation. So when you are thinking about narrow rows, I'd rather just stay with 30-inch in my environments and play with narrow rows if I need for high-yielding environments.
Now, you may not realize it or not, but years ago I had a graduate student that worked on drilled corn.
Drilled corn?
Drilled corn. And yields were actually pretty good, but getting it into the header was a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Okay. So row spacings, probably stay with 30-inch, rotate.
Yeah, I would say 30-inch rotate, that's probably one of the best options.
Okay. Ignacio, thanks a bunch for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Folks, thanks for being with us. And don't forget, next Friday at the same time, there's going to be more of That's My Farm. We'll see you then.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.